Backbone Wrestling Network. Welcome back to the CrosUp, your weekly look back at the week that was in professional wrestling. This week I'll be running through the results from May 19th Raw to Saturday night's main event on May 24th. We open Raw looking back at the actions from Seth Rollins, Braun Breaker, and Paul Heyman from last week. Logan Paul opens things up. He gets right to the point by saying he'll be the next World Heavyweight Champion when he beats Jey Uso on Saturday night's main event. We get a bunch of yeet chants, and this gets on Paul's nerves. He goes on about how he's knocked out Jey a few times over the last few weeks and is ready to do it again. Gunther then comes out to interrupt Logan Paul. Logan Paul kind of knows that this probably isn't good for him. Gunther thinks Logan's statements make him sound confident, and that is what drives them in life. The people here should show Paul more respect. Gunther talks about all of Paul's successes in business and all that he has done throughout his life. Says he could learn some stuff from Logan. Thanks. He's Logan Paul says that works for him. He's willing to talk to Gunther anytime about business or anything like that. Gunther can imagine the headlines if Logan Paul becomes the World Heavyweight Champion. And Paul says Gunther knows business. Gunther says this may be business to Paul, but for Gunther it's personal. Taking the title from Uso is personal for Gunther, and says to ask Pat McAfee what he does to non-wrestlers. At least McAfee showed some heart, but if Paul wins the title, Gunther will eat him alive. Gunther then goes to leave, but Paul kind of trash talks about him, only to end up getting super kicked by Jey Uso, who had come in from behind. We then look at Julia and Roxanne Perez kind of splitting up their tag team after last week's loss, and Perez has officially signed with the Raw brand. We then look at NBA stars Tyrese Halliburton and Jalen Brunson getting involved in kind of an angle last June on SmackDown. They play in the NBA playoffs coming up in the Eastern Conference Finals, starting I believe either that night or the night after. I can't remember exactly when the series started, but it was right around Monday of the beginning of the week. But we'll hear from Tyrese Halliburton later. Jey Uso runs into Paul Heyman, who wants to give Uso some facts. Everyone says that Heyman betrayed CM Punk and Roman Reigns, which means he stabbed him in the back. The fact is that Braun Breaker is facing Uso tonight in a non-title match because it isn't about the title for Braun Breaker. Instead, Breaker is out to slow Uso down and beat him down, so Seth Rollins could take advantage and win the title from him soon. We then get the Judgment Day represented by Finn Balor and JD McDonough. They defeat AJ Styles and Penta when El Grande Americano interferes and uses his steel-loaded headbutt in his mask on Penta, and then this allows Finn to hit the coup de grace for the win. We then get Io Sky. She's ready for anyone to win Money in the Bank. And then Becky Lynch comes in as she's about to head out for her qualifying match. Becky reminds Sky that Sky has never beaten her. And Sky says she's ready for anyone, especially Becky. Seth Rollins then interrupts Logan Paul, who is trying to get out of the arena. Rollins says that Jey Uso is going to get hurt tonight, and that means Paul has a real chance on Saturday. If Paul gets past Uso and Gunther, Rollins will be waiting for him. Says maybe they can run it back from WrestleMania a couple years ago, but this time with the title on the line, and tells Logan to think about that fact. Roxanne Perez then defeats Becky Lynch and Natalia when Roxy hits the Pop Rocks on Natty after Lyra had kind of taken Becky out of the equation. This qualifies Roxy for Money in the Bank. Sami Zayn then runs into Jey Uso, telling him just to worry about Logan Paul. Sami Zayn will deal with Seth Rollins and company and has Usos back tonight if numbers come in to be a factor. Akira Tozawa gets his opportunity to face Rusev next week. Chad Gable comes in and promises that he will face Destruction in that match next week, and then Tozawa leaves. When they leave, Chad Gable wants qualifying matches for the Money in the Bank for him and Ivy Nile. New Day then comes in and isn't thrilled about the Creed brothers getting a title shot in a triple threat tag next week, with the War Raiders also involved. Adam Pearce then throws them all out of his office with Xavier Woods saying it smells like a midlife crisis in here before he leaves. So obvious little shot at Adam Pearce there. We then get Sheamus defeating Grayson Waller via pinfall following the Bro kick. We then get the interview with Tyrese Halliburton that I kind of talked about a minute ago, where Michael Cole and Pat McAfee make a bet on the Eastern Conference Finals. Cole being a Knicks fan, Pat obviously being a Pacers fan. If the Pacers win, Cole will call Raw in a tank top, kind of like Pat has done in the past with his black tank top that he wears a lot. And if the Knicks win, McAfee will call the whole show in a suit. They talk to Pacers star Tyrese Halliburton. Like I said, he will be a playable character on WWE 2K25. They talk about the big rivalry between the Pacers and Knicks, and Halliburton says he's ready to go. Cole hypes up the Knicks, obviously. McAfee actually calls him a biased piece of trash for saying that, but Halliburton says he's ready to face the Knicks, like I said, and he actually picks Jey Uso to beat Logan Paul on Saturday night's main event. We then get Gunther. He's interrupted by Seth Rollins, I should say. Seth Rollins says it's been a while since they've talked. Rollins thanks Gunther for doing things with his championship and making it prominent again. But Gunther says the reality is Rollins is not the long-term game around here. Rollins says that if Gunther gets in his way, he'll make himself a target. Gunther says he is eagerly awaiting what Rollins may try to do to him if he is a target of his group. We then get Rhea Ripley. She defeats Kairi Sane and Zoe Stark when she hits Riptide on Kairi for the win. This qualifies her for Money in the Bank. Zoe, during the match, had a spot that went wrong, and her knee got absolutely destroyed in the middle of the match, so she's going to be out for a while. Based on reaction to Rhea when the injury happened, it kind of felt like maybe Zoe was supposed to win the match, or she was supposed to be heavily involved in the finish or something like that. Because the injury looked really bad. But maybe Rhea was always supposed to win, but maybe Zoe was supposed to win, and they had to flip the script and go with something else. But Rhea was the beneficiary of the match, at least. But poor Zoe. I feel like every time she seems to get a chance or something like that, something bad happens to her. She loses her partners or she gets injured. But hopefully she comes back from this and can kind of vault herself up the roster. But we then get a promo for Rusev. He says he's going to destroy Tozawa next week, and next week he'll forgive Tozawa's stupidity and then forget his existence. We then get Finn Balor introducing Roxanne Perez as possibly a potential member for the Judgment Day. She's got presents. She gets chicky tendies for Dominic Mysterio and apples for Carlito. Raquel Rodriguez then throws her out, saying that Liv Morgan would not like this, especially that she's giving gifts to her man. So we'll see if Liv has any reaction to that when she comes back. We then get our main event where Jey Uso defeats Braun Breaker via DQ when Rollins attacks Uso after Heyman had grabbed Uso's leg when he went to bounce off the ropes. After the match, Sami Zayn and CM Punk come in for the save. After the fans sing along to Cult of Personality for a little bit, they continue to brawl. The fight heads into the crowd with Punk diving in with a double axe handle on all of them. The four of them then go to the backstage. And then Logan Paul knocks out Jey Uso one more time to end the show. The best match for me on this one would be the Money in the Bank qualifier with Roxy, Natty, and Becky. I thought it was a really strong performance by both of them. The tag match with Penta, AJ, and the Judgment Day I thought was also a very good match. But I would give the upper hand to the women's Money in the Bank match. Shockingly, some of the best matches this week were either tag matches or triple threat matches. A lot of triple threat matches for sure, but they seem to do triple threat matches pretty well this week. So I would give Roxy, Natty, and Becky the leg up on that one. We then go to NXT. We open with Shawn Legacy from the Evolve roster defeating Javon Evans and Ashante via Adonis when he hit an inverted Death Valley driver into a twisting suplex on Ashante. Ethan Page had come out and attacked Ricky Saints, who had been on commentary during this match. Evans had kind of dove out onto them, which had kind of taken him out of the match, allowing Legacy to defeat Ashante. So they didn't really say this was necessarily a number one contenders match, but based on promos that I'll talk about later, they kind of imply that this got Shawn Legacy a possible North American Championship match at some point. Um, Ava then sends security to deal with Ethan Page. That brings in Tyra May Steele and Jasper Troy, who are the winners of the LFG Season 1 series, the Legends and Future Great show that they did on A&E. They'll be debuting in the next few weeks, but Jasper Troy promises to make an impact tonight. We then look at Jordan Grace training. She signed around the same time as Julia and Stephanie Vicaire, and they all want to be at the top. Grace has been in Mexico and Japan, plus obviously dominated TNA for quite a few years. On Sunday at Battleground, she'll prove that she is the best here in NXT. Lola Vice then wishes Vicaire luck, but runs into Fatal Influence. They argue for a bit, and Fallon Henley and Lola Vice will face each other tonight in a match. Trick Williams then says people break their necks to see him, while Joe Hendry breaks his neck to see the people. Williams then does a rap of sorts about not losing to an average Joe, and Booker seems to be pretty hyped about the whole rap, but it was pretty good. Maybe not the best rap I've ever heard, but it was pretty solid for old Trick on his first try there. We then get Josh Briggs. He dedicates his match tonight to his buddy Yoshiki Inamura, who has gone back to Pro Wrestling Noah. We then get that match where Josh Briggs actually falls to Sean Spears via pinfall following a small package after Nico Vance had gotten a cheap shot in on Briggs. And then after the match, Hank and Tank run in to make the save, running off the rest of the calling. We then get Kalani Jordan bickers with Zarya and Sol Ruka backstage, with Zarya saying she'll take care of Kalani later, so Sol Ruka won't have to face her at Battleground for the North American Women's Championship. We then get Thea Hale. She has her eye bandage from last week where she almost got her eye gouged out by Tatum Paxley. She yells at Tatum about the attack last week. Paxley then says Hale has no idea what it's like to lose everyone, which Hale says she knows exactly what that feels like, as she's lost her Chase U brethren in the past. Jada Parker then jumps Thea Hale from behind and actually kind of sympathizes with Tatum for a second. And Tatum kind of is like, really? And then Jada's like, hell no. And then kind of says she wants nothing to do with her. So pretty good line there from Jada Parker. She kind of sympathizes with her and then is like, oh, nah, never mind. I don't care about you. But then we go to our next match where OTM wins their first match back, defeating Chase U, represented by Cale Dixon and Uriah Connors, when they hit an assisted spinebuster on Connors. Miles Bourne and Oba Femi then come out for a final showdown before their title match at Battleground. Femi is surprised and impressed that Bourne has made it this far. He understands that Bourne is fighting for people who believe in him and who are following their dreams. However, that dream was realized when Bourne won the Battle Royal, and it all ends when the bell rings at Battleground. Bourne talks about how he has been treated differently for his entire career. This is about making a statement. He hopes Femi underestimates him. Everyone has done that before, from doctors to nurses to even the NXT coaches. He's been overcoming battles all of his life, and every ruler eventually falls. No, he can't hear well, but he'll hear the 1, 2, 3 on Sunday when he wins the NXT title. Bourne then goes to leave, and Jasper Troy comes out from out of nowhere and actually jumps over Femi. Bourne then comes back to try to make the save, and he eventually actually grabs the title and holds it up, but he eventually actually hands it back to Oba Femi before they have a final stare down. Ricky Saints and Ethan Page argue in Ava's office, and Saints is actually willing to give Ethan Page another title shot just to get his hands on him. Ava says they don't make title matches, or they don't make matches around here. She does, and then she just makes the match anyway. And it's going to be a title match next week on NXT. So not for Battleground, but next week on the TV show. Tony D'Angelo then talks about what it means when you get betrayed. He and Stax grew up together and have known each other for years. They made the D'Angelo family, but now Stax wants to run everything. Stax doesn't get what it takes to be in charge and doesn't see everything. And on Sunday, Stax will see how things really do work. We then get Lola Vice. She defeats Fallon Henley via pinfall following a spinning back fist. We then get a Stephanie Vaquer hype package, or it's kind of a sit-down interview, but it kind of tosses to different clips where she talks about all the work it took for her to get here. She was inspired by Rey Mysterio, and now she knows that she had to do everything to accomplish her goals. Jordan Grace conquers companies, but Vaquer conquers countries. So talking about how she's pretty world traveled and has been the best in all of them. We then get the Dark State. They get a promo. They talk about how Deion Lennox started the team and they are ready to take NXT down. They all bring something different to the table, and now it is time to find out who their next victim will be. We then get Kalani Jordan defeating Zarya via pinfall, following Zarya accidentally running into Sol Ruca. Then this allows Jordan to catch her with a roll-up. This gets Kalani a North American title shot at Battleground against Sol. We then get Joe Hendry out for his main event concert. He says he actually praises Trick for trying in his first performance earlier, but then Hendry sings about how he's going to be champion after Battleground. He says Williams is merely the champion of producing tears and is only a bad sidekick to Carmelo Hayes and nothing else. We then are shown a clip from back in the day when Carmelo and Trick were in a haunted house in one of the Halloween Havocs. And something had chased Trick back in the old video, but they superimposed Joe Hendry's face onto whatever it was that was chasing Trick around to kind of make it seem like he was a chicken. And then he starts singing about how Trick is Mello's bitch, which brings Trick out to interrupt. Trick calls him Average Joe, and then they continue to fight. Trick actually hits the trick shot, but he ends up hitting the guitar instead of Hendry himself. Hendry then gives him the standing ovation and sings about winning on Sunday to end the show. The opening triple threat for me was the best match of NXT, and it was actually one of the best NXT TV matches I've seen in a while, and it may feature pretty highly on the top 5 at the end of the show. But we'll move on from there to Dynamite. Tony Schiavone is in the ring, and he brings out the 2 finalists in the Owen Hart Cup, Will Ospreay and Hangman Page. They both agree to not get physical, so Tony Schiavone leaves the ring, and the security that was around the ring go to the back. He asks Page if Page still drinks and apologizes for the shot to the face last week. Ospreay has some beers brought in, but puts his down and says he has an official request for Tony Khan, and that is for the 2 of them to be the main event at Double or Nothing. That is a lot of pressure, but the winner goes on to All In, and the winner has the responsibility of taking the world title back for AEW, as the Death Riders have kind of had it locked up for a while. Ospreay flies around all the time and is jet lagged every Tuesday, but puts on his crime-fighting pants and says, "Ring the bell." Whenever that happens. That's what he wants more than anything else. He wants to be the world champion at Forbidden Door when they go to London, 30 minutes from his house. More than that, though, he wants his 6-year-old to look at him as the world champion. Ospreay knows Page wants it too, but he wants it that much more. Page says that's the difference between them. Ospreay wants it bad, and Page has had that feeling before. There's no greater prize than being the world champion. But for Ospreay, it could be a professional accomplishment. It is just that, though, professional. Page says it's personal for him, though, because he doesn't just want it, but he needs it. Page has not won anything in 2 years, and those moments have killed him more every day. He needs his son to look back at him and see his father, and for his wife to look at him and see her husband. What he needs is for Ospreay to be wrong when he said it was too little too late for Page. Ospreay says what Page is going to do, or ask what he's going to do about it. Wrap a chair around his skull. On Sunday, he is showing up and doing his best, which hasn't been enough before. Yes, he has lost, but he has never given less than everything. Page asks if that is enough to beat Jon Moxley and the Death Riders, but Ospreay doesn't know. Ospreay asks if what Page is now is enough either. The best of Ospreay has beaten a lot of people because he is the best in the world. He's beaten your Danielsons, your Swerves, all those guys. Anything can happen when the bell rings, and if Page wins and needs someone to have his back at All In, Osprey has his back. He hopes Page will do the same if Osprey wins, so meet him in the desert at Double or Nothing. They both drink the beers and stare hard at each other, and then they go up the aisle, kind of stand by the Owen Hart Cup, and do another quick stare down before we cut to commercial. We then get John Moxley and Marina Shafir arriving at the arena, with Moxley saying the spoils will go to those who embrace the anarchy. We then get our first match where Powerhouse Hobbs, Samoa Joe, and Swerve Strickland defeat the Young Bucks and John Moxley when Swerve was able to roll up Matt Jackson for the win. After the match, the Death Riders run in to beat down the faces, and then Shibata returns to make the save. Shafir then cuts off Shibata with a low blow. This brings out Willow Nightingale, who pounces Shafir. Kenny Omega then runs in to make the save as well. A table is set up, and Matt was saved from getting hit with the one-winged angel. The heels then leave, and Joe says they're coming for them at some point tonight. So promising violence at some point throughout the rest of the night. We then get the Hurt Syndicate. They say MJF should be excited. The excited one tonight. He has a new suit for the occasion. And then the Hurt Syndicate come out to make the induction of MJF official to the team. MJF comes out and says his mom told him that the most important day of his life is the day that you marry the love of your life. MJF says, clearly that bitch has never joined the Hurt Syndicate. MJF and MVP then take turns mocking the fans who boo them a lot. And everyone but Bobby Lashley signs the contract. Lashley seems unsure, but ultimately ends up signing. And he says he then gives MJF a commemorative Hurt Syndicate hat. The Sons of Texas then come out, which is Dustin Rhodes and Sammy Guevara. Rhodes tells MJF to shut up. Rhodes and MVP have a long history of respect, but Rhodes thinks he shouldn't trust MJF. We hear about how they changed the business and now they want more. They want more gold. If they like to hurt people, jump on Rhodes and try to hurt him. They have been beaten up and hurt by bigger people, and now they're ready to fight with all their heart. He would bet on day one guys like him and Sammy. So that seems to be a match set up for Double or Nothing. I don't think they officially announced it till later, but that's pretty much them challenging them to a match there. We then get Kazuchika Okada. He isn't letting Mike Bailey call him out at Double for Nothing because he's calling Mike Bailey out instead. So he's pretty much accepting the match there for the Continental Championship at Double or Nothing. We then get Ricochet. He defeats Anthony Bowens via pinfall following the Spirit Gun. Post-match, Mark Briscoe brings out a stretcher and beats up Ricochet. That gets made into a stretcher match for Double or Nothing later on as well. So Mark Briscoe versus Ricochet in a stretcher match will happen then. We then get Stokely Hathaway. He's with FTR. He wants to sign the contract for Double or Nothing in a for the tag team match face to face. Nigel McGuinness and Daniel Garcia can even bring Matt Menard, Daddy Magic. We then get Renee Paquette. She brings out Jamie Hayter and Mercedes Moné for a face-to-face interview about their Owen Hart Cup final. Hayter says that so be it if she is seen as the underdog because she is used to being there. She will fight. She will fight back every single time because that is who she is. Hayter doesn't have people running around doing her dirty work for her. And yes, she is rough around the edges. This means more to Hayter, and they both know that because it's about not being forgotten. If she doesn't win, what does that mean for her? Monet laughs it off and calls herself the Beyonce of wrestling. She's going to All In and winning the women's world title because she is the greatest TBS champion of all time. So she thinks she can be the greatest women's world champion of all time as well. Monet hasn't gotten here, though, through luck because it's about leaving her legacy. Hayter's chapter finally ends at Double or Nothing. Hayter points out Monet losing her NJPW strong women's title, and that is going to be her destiny. Monet jumps her, but gets dropped with the Haterade, and then Toni Storm comes out, who will be on commentary for the main event match that will happen shortly, which is Mina Shirakawa defeating Julia Hart via pinfall when She's able to reverse a roll up into one of her own. After the match, Hart goes after Shirakawa, but who ties up Hart's bad leg. Sky Blue then comes in to deck Shirakawa, but Storm comes in to make the save, and then Shirakawa and Storm get into a tug of war of the belt, and Shirakawa goes after Storm's knee, tying it around the post and doing a figure four around it. We then get the Young Bucks. They go to leave the arena, and they seem to think that they're pretty safe from the attack of Samoa Joe and crew. But Powerhouse Hobbs and Samoa Joe come in and jump them. The rest of the guys in Anarchy in the arena come in and have a brawl all around the arena with weapons. The fight goes into the arena where the Bucks beat up Kenny Omega, who fights back as this anarchy in the arena is this anarchy in the arena is the setup, the anarchy in the arena at the pay-per-view. Gabe Kidd runs in again and helps the heels with the beatdown, and the Bucks hit stereo dives onto Omega and Swerve Strickland through tables, and that ends the show. The six-man opener with Hobbs, Swerve, and Joe beating the Bucks and Moxley was the best match of the night for me. Like I've always said, with Dynamite, they seem to have a pretty good formula for those 6-man, 8-mans that they have, and odds are most weeks they'll be one of the better matches on the show. So this week was no different. But we will move on from there to Impact. We open with Mustafa Ali defeating Ace Austin via submission with the knee bar. Ace had been nursing a knee injury coming into the match, and Ali worked on it throughout and got him to tap to the knee bar. The System is in ready to win at Under Siege and also win tonight. Rosemary then thinks she knows how to push Zaya Brookside over the edge, and she's apparently attacked Lei Ying Li as she has her on like a table, like caressing her head and saying that she's going to continue to beat down Zaya Brookside's friends until Zaya embraces the dark side inside of her. We then get the Aztec Warriors defeating the Northern Armory. That was hard for me to say. When Laredo hits a split-legged moonsault on Icarus. Hopefully, I'll bust out of that tongue-tying pretty quick there. But after that, Zaya Brookside is ready to fight Rosemary at Under Siege, so they're going to have a match. It ends up being on the pre-show, but Zaya continues to embrace her dark side throughout that as she gets disqualified once again, like she did a couple weeks ago. But I won't talk about that later, so I'll just go ahead and throw that out now. Eddie Edwards then defeats Jake Painter via pinfall following the Boston Knee Party. We then get video of Mance Warner and Steph DeLander talking about how they like violence and how they're going to continue to wreak havoc throughout TNA going forward. We then get First Class of AJ Francis and Casey Navarro defeating Mike Santana and Sami Callihan when Navarro hits the Blessing in Disguise on Sami and gets the 3 count. We then get Gia Miller. She is out hosting the debate between Santino Marella and Robert Stone. Marella talks about how he came here for just over 2 years ago, and no one in his family has ever had political power before. Then Stone showed up and started messing with his business, which should not be happening. Stone then says Marella has not made this a better place, and Marella doesn't belong in wrestling. When Stone takes over, he's going to fire the losers and make a lot of money here in Impact. Marella calls him stupid and says he does what he does what the people want. Tessa Blanchard then comes out to go after Ariana Grace, but Masha Slamovich runs in to make the save. Blanchard is powerbombed onto the table, but the table does not break. It makes a pretty sick thud with Grace helping. And then Masha loads her up for a Death Valley driver through the table that's now set up in the corner. And again, it doesn't break and makes a pretty nasty thud once again. So this table did not want to play ball. I guess they didn't work it enough to make it easily breakable. But man, 2 pretty sick table spots there. But hopefully Tessa's okay. Matt Cardona then reveals that Steve Macklin isn't medically cleared for Under Siege, so he should be named the new international champion. Santino comes in to say that Macklin will be cleared for next week, so the title will be on the line on Impact next week instead. Spitfire says they're ready to put their careers on the line at Under Siege to get their women's tag titles back from the team by Elegance. We then get Spitfire in a match. They defeat Viperous and Maserati when they hit the pressure drop on Viperous. Matt Hardy then explains team chemistry to Leon Slater and thinks that they could gel really well together and become tag team champions tomorrow night at Under Siege. And then we get our main event where Elijah and Joe Hendry defeat the System, represented by Brian Myers and Moose, when Elijah hits the Highwayman's Farewell on Myers. And then after the match, Frankie Kazarian runs in to jump the winners, but Elijah comes back in with a guitar shot. And Trick Williams was at commentary. Seems pretty pissed that the Faces ended up on top to end the show. But as far as best match on Impact, I would go with Ace Austin versus Ali. Those two guys are super talented, and I don't know when or if I know Ace Austin decided not to re-sign with TNA, but I don't really know when that goes into effect. But this kind of writes him off with an injury, so I don't know if I don't know if he's done based on taping and all that kind of stuff. But if that was his last match, then it was a solid one. But he will be desperately missed on the Impact roster. But hopefully he lands with one of the bigger companies because, like I said, he's a super talented young guy. Deserves to be deserves to be somewhere where he can make a lot of money and be maybe a little bit more prominently featured. So good for him. But we'll move on from there to Collision, which was actually on Thursday this week to kind of make up for the big weekend ahead with the Saturday Night's Main Event and the 2 pay-per-views and all that. But to open Collision, Tony Schiavone brings out Adam Cole to join commentary. Adam Cole's done commentary on Collision a couple of weeks over the last few months or so. But FTR and Stokely Hathaway, and then Daniel Garcia with Daddy Magic and Nigel McGuinness come out for a contract signing. Cash Wheeler gives them one more time to get out of this because they still see Daniel Garcia as a son. McGuinness has been hiding behind the commentary desk and making jokes, but there is no one here to save him on Sunday. FTR signs the contract, but Garcia says they're the ones who turned on him. The reality is that Garcia is standing up for everyone FTR is hurt. They might be one of the greatest teams of all time, but Sunday is going to be a fight. Garcia has seen the fire in McGuinness's eyes, and he knows McGuinness still has it. Garcia signs, and McGuinness says, "We'll see if he still has it at Double or Nothing." Before he signs, though, he wants to guarantee that FTR ignores himself and Tony Schiavone for good, so they can't attack them anymore as far as when they're commentators. McGuinness goes to sign, but Dax Harwood stops him. Harwood says he needs to know that this isn't all about McGuinness. If he wants FTR to finish him off, sign the contract. Otherwise, McGuinness can go sit down and we'll forget about all of this and maybe be friends. This is just business because otherwise Harwood I've already dropped Nigel. The brawl is on, and FTR get to put on some holds before they run off when they're run off by the Faces. But yeah, we'll see if we'll see how McGuinness does in that match. But it should be a pretty solid tag. We'll see how it goes. Tony Storm that says she's ready for Mina Shirakawa. And she's ready to see this thing with them be ended, and it's time for them to fight. They'll make every cactus cream itself, and then decades from now, when they're giving Brutus Beefcake a lap dance at the wrestler's retirement home, she'll look at Shirakawa and say that they lived. We then get Don Callis, the Don Callis family, represented by Takeshita, Trent, and Rocky Romero. They defeat the Outrunners and Bandito when they all three hit like combo spike pile drivers on both Outrunners, and then Takeshita pins one of them. I couldn't tell which one it was, but Takeshita gets the pin. Is pretty much all that matters. We then get a video on Gabe Kidd. He's working with the Death Riders and Young Bucks lately because they are going to eat AEW alive. He wants to see that happen. Mercedes Moné then defeats Reina Isis via submission with the statement maker. Post-match, Jamie Hayter comes out for a stare down, but security is right in between them before anything gets physical. We then get video on the Sons of Texas with Dustin Rhodes wanting to be a triple champion, already being the ROH tag and six-man tag champs. We then get Kyle Fletcher defeating Jay Lethal via pinfall following a brainbuster. Post-match, the Don Callis family come in for the beatdown. So Adam Cole gets up and actually breaks it up, and the rest of the Paragon comes out, and the Don Callis family bails. The Paragon then defeat the Grizzled Young Veterans when they hit the high-low on James Drake. Adam Cole then challenges the Don Callis family for Double or Nothing. We then get Josh Alexander. He defeats AR Fox via pinfall following the C4 spike. We then get video of Will Ospreay versus Hangman Page, basically the confrontation from the previous night, plus just kind of anything that's happened between them, ever since they've been building to that final match in the Owen Hart Cup. We then get a Lucha six-man with Mascara, Dorado, Mystico, and Templario defeating Los Depredadorios. I mispronounced that. I'm just going to go ahead and say, but it's Volador, Magnus, and Rugido that make up that team. But Mascara, Dorado, Mystico, and Templario win the match when Dorado hits a shooting star press on Magnus. But yeah, I definitely butchered that name. But I'm not adept with my Spanish right now. I'm not gonna lie. I haven't taken that class since high school, so. We then get a video on Megan Bain and Penelope Ford versus Anna Jay and Harley Cameron, which will happen on the buy-in at Double or Nothing. That tag match is set. We then get Chris Statlander. She's backstage. She isn't sure what she did to Willow Nightingale, other than obviously everything she's done to her in the past during their rivalry. Statlander kind of sees the point of maybe she did a lot to her in the past, and that's why they're not friends and don't get along very well. Either way, she isn't pleased with Nightingale and sounds like she's going to. She sounds like she kind of spits out a little bit of a threat towards Willow. So they may battle and have a rivalry after the pay-per-view. We think Commander and Speedball they defeat La Facción Ingobernables, represented by Rush and Dralistico, when Commander hits the Celito Lindo on Dralistico. After the match, Okada comes out and flips Speedball off and earning himself a kick to the face. He then hits a big running flip dive, and that takes out Okada, and Bailey holds up the Continental Championship to end the show. Not particularly any bad matches on the show, but nothing really stood out other than the Lucha tag. I thought it had a lot of cool high flying stuff, and all the guys worked really hard and seemed to be having a good time out there. So I would go with that as the best match on Collision. I think there were only like 3 matches, so it was a real big hype for the pay per view. There were more matches than 3, but I would say that one got the most time and seemed to be given the best amount of time to work with the guys. So I think they did the best job. But we'll go to SmackDown. We see a bunch of people kind of arriving to the arena to start the show. 2 of them being Damian Priest and Drew McIntyre, and they kind of get into a fight, and security has to break them up. We then get Tiffany Stratton in the arena to open the show. She's rather happy with what she has been doing lately and is looking forward to Money in the Bank, but no one better think twice about cashing in on her. Alexa Bliss then comes out, formally introduces herself, as they haven't really interacted before, saying she needs that briefcase and that she's had it before. She doesn't know Stratton very well, so Stratton better pray that Bliss doesn't win. Charlotte comes out to brag about everything she's done. She has never won Money in the Bank, though. She wants the spotlight back, but Charlotte calls her a hypocrite. Charlotte has called the briefcase a cheap way in, but it doesn't matter because Charlotte and Bliss are a bit of the old school for her. That's what Stratton says. Stratton is the upgraded version of the 2 of them, and that doesn't sit well with Bliss or Charlotte. We then get a qualifying match where Julia defeats Charlotte Flair and Zelina Vega when she hits the Northern Lights bomb on Vega, and this qualifies Julia for the Money in the Bank. DIY then takes credit for the tag team division coming together and being as great as it's been lately, and doesn't like the other teams acting like they were the ones that had anything to do with it. We then get Zelina Vega. She's in the back, and Chelsea Green mocks her for losing. They kind of battle a little bit, but the Secret Harvest make the numbers game kind of add up on Zelina before BFAB and Michin come in to kind of break it up. And they say they want to fight the Secret Harvest later. And Nick Aldis makes that match for later. We then get Tommaso Ciampa defeating Chris Sabin via pinfall when Candice LeRae makes her return and pulls Sabin's throat first down on the top rope, allowing Ciampa to hit a running pump knee for the win. Fraxium is ready for the biggest night of their careers as they have the tag team title shot tonight and expect to walk out as champions. We then get Damian Priest. He's supposed to come out and cut a promo, but him and Drew McIntyre are still battling, and they brawl all around ringside. It's eventually broken up, but Priest says he wants more on the mic, and the brawl continues. We then get Jacob Fatu backstage. He doesn't know JC Mateo and doesn't trust him. Solo Sikoa says use that aggression tonight. Sikoa wants Jimmy Uso back in the fold, but Fatu doesn't seem convinced by either Sikoa or Mateo. We then get Alexa Bliss. She runs into Charlotte again, kind of makes fun of her for not qualifying earlier, or kind of says, "Oh, I'll see you at Money in the Bank." And then she's like, "Oh, wait," and then walks away. BFAB and Michin then defeat the Secret Harvest when BFAB hits a swinging face plant on Alba Fire and gets the pin. We then get the Street Profits. They are ready for Fraxium, but don't like the suggestion that they are their team. Jacob Fatu, Solo Sikoa, and JC Mateo come by, headed out for their match, and kind of have a little bit of a stare down. We then go to a scene where Legado del Fantasma has a meeting. They're having like a dinner to try to calm things down within the group. Santos wants them ready for a 6-man tag at the Worlds Collide event that will happen on June 7th. They're facing 3 luchadors. I didn't write their names down, but they're going to have a 6-man trios match at the Worlds Collide show. Berto still doesn't seem convinced of the idea of the team, but does drink the toast. He's not exactly with them, but it seems like he's kind of somewhat contemplating continuing with the group. We then get Jimmy Uso and Rey Fenix. They are ready for their match that's coming up next. And I'm pretty sure Jimmy Uso said the 4 Spanish words that he knows off the top of his head because he's listening to Phoenix just go off about or speaking in Spanish and stuff like that. And Jimmy Uso's just saying the little Spanish that he knows. We then get JC Mateo and Jacob Fatu defeating Jimmy and Phoenix when Mateo hits the Tour of the Islands on Jimmy for the win. LA Knight is ready to go through Aleister Black and Shinsuke Nakamura to go to Money in the Bank. He's tired of the darkness and is ready to BFT them into the light. We then get R-Truth out to cut a promo. John Cena is his childhood hero, but he doesn't recognize this Cena that we've seen over the last few months. The problem is power because they used to be friends. The more power and fame Cena got, though, the more disconnected he felt. They stopped talking, and R-Truth felt like Cena was always annoyed at him. Maybe R-Truth thought he had done something wrong, but other people felt the same. He says Cena is like Gollum from Lord of the Rings, with his championship being his precious. He doesn't believe Cena is happy, but maybe he can bring Cena back. If R-Truth wants to save wrestling, he has to save Cena, so he'll beat the hustle, loyalty, and respect back into Cena. We then get a hype package for Naomi versus Jade Cargill versus Nia Jax, who will be in a Money in the Bank qualifying match next week. We then get a Money in the Bank qualifying match where LA Knight defeats Aleister Black and Shinsuke Nakamura when Black actually hits Black Mass on Knock, but LA Knight sneaks in and throws Black out and steals the pin. So LA Knight qualifies for Money in the Bank. Miz has gotten Carmelo Hayes a Money in the Bank qualifying match, and he knows how important it can be to a wrestler's career. Now he wants Hayes to follow his play calling, with Hayes seemingly being in on the idea and agreeing that it was a big help for Miz's career, and it could be the same for him. We then get a Saturday night main event rundown with Zelina Vega defending her U.S. title against Chelsea Green being added to the card. Nick Aldis then tells Jacob Fatu that he is in the final Money in the Bank qualifier next week. Fatu actually says that he loves Solo Sikoa because of this to kind of put the screws to Solo, as Solo is already in the match. We then get a hype package for Bianca Belair. Next week's show is in Knoxville, so she will be making her return from her injury then. And then we get our main event where Fraxium and the Street Profits match ends in a double disqualification when the Wyatt Six makes their return and attack both Fraxium and the Street Profits. DIY and Motor City Machine Guns had also come out and gotten involved, but they kind of both battled each other while the match continued. But the Wyatts eventually wreck everyone, and they, I think, Uncle Howdy hits Sister Abigail on Johnny Gargano to end the show. Another good, solid wrestling show for WWE. Another solid triple threat. I would go with Julia, Charlotte, and Zelina being the best match of the night, with Fraxium and Street Profits shortly behind. But mostly because that one kind of ended in a DQ, so it didn't really have a finish. So I'm always going to give a match that had a finish a little bit more props than one that didn't, but they had a good match cooking before that happened. So, and if they do get another match down the line, it'll be great, like the previous one was. We'll move from there to Under Siege, our first pay-per-view or PLE or special show for the week. We open with Mike Santana defeating Casey Navarro via pinfall following the spin the block. The match was originally supposed to be versus AJ Francis. Francis came out on a crutch, and then after the match, Santana seems to want to show some respect, but Francis gets in and takes out Santana, and Navarro helps him do so. So we'll see AJ Francis and Mike Santana somewhere down the line, but he snuck out of it for tonight. We then get Eric Young. He gives Cody Deaner a pep talk before his big match, where he might be going out to win a contract or basically end his TNA career. Eddie Edwards is then able to defeat Cody Deaner via pinfall after Alicia hits Deaner with a low blow, allowing Eddie Edwards to hit the Boston Knee Party. After the match, the System comes out to mock Deaner, saying no one cares about him, and now he's out of a job. The Northern Armory then come out to defend them, who don't like this anti-Canadian rhetoric that the System is spouting. And then we get a 6-man match where the Northern Armory defeats the System when Eric Young hits the pile driver on Moose for the win. We then get our Knockouts tag team title match where the Team by Elegance retains against Spitfire when Ash hits Rarefied Air on Jody Threat. And this, I don't know if it ever became official, but Spitfire says they would stop teaming if they lost that match. So we'll see if that actually ends up being true. We then look at Zia Brookside from the pre-show snapping on Rosemary. Brookside says that this is what Rosemary wanted, and whatever happens next is on her, bitch. We then get another match where Order 4, which is Mustafa Ali, Tasha Steelz, and the Great Hands, they defeat the Rascals, Indy Hartwell, and Raj Singh. Raj Singh used to be Ali's like right-hand man, like his chief of staff kind of guy, and he returned kind of calling out Ali for leaving him in the dust. But Ali hits the 450 splash on Singh for the win. And then after the match, Ali continues to beat him down, but the Order 4 cabinet kind of tries to stop him, and Ali accidentally shoves Tasha Steelz down in the melee. Santino then gives Ariana Grace, which they actually acknowledge as his daughter for, I think, maybe the first time. They've talked like they care about each other in the past, but I don't think they've ever actually said whether they're related or not. But he gives her a pep talk before a match, and Grace is ready for a fight. Steve Macklin, recovering from a skull fracture, they say, is ready to face Matt Cardona this weekend, or the next week on Impact, I should say. Tessa Blanchard then defeats Ariana Grace via pinfall after hitting Magnum. Post-match, Morella comes out to check on Ariana, but Stone tells them to get out of the ring and the show must go on. That signals the Knockouts championship match where Masha Slamovich defeats Victoria Crawford via pinfall following the Requiem pile driver. After the match, Slamovich grabs the mic, says Lei Ying Lee should be her next challenger. Lee comes out, but Stone comes out to say that Lee must earn the shot on Impact. We then get a tribute to Sabu, because I think Impact's about the only company, or TNA, but the only company that hasn't done a tribute to him. But it's mostly because of that how they tape their shows. We then get the Nemeth brothers, but they defeat Leon Slater and Matt Hardy when Nick hits the danger zone on Matt. We then get Santino Marella. He gives Ariana Grace a pep talk again and wants to face Robert Stone, and then Ariana Grace suggests a mixed tag team match for a future date. I'm sure. And then we get our main event where Elijah and Joe Hendry defeat Trick Williams and Frankie Kazarian when Hendry hits the standing ovation on Kazarian. As far as best match on that show, I would go with the main event tag match. The other tag match between the Nemeth brothers and Slater and Hardy was also very good as well, but I'd give the tip of the hat to Elijah Hendry and Trick and Kaz. And then we'll move to our final show of the week. We will go to Saturday night's main event. We open with Braun Breaker and Seth Rollins defeating CM Punk and Sami Zayn. Bronson Reed had returned and kind of taken out Punk, and this allowed Braun Breaker to hit the super spear on Sami Zayn for the win. After the match, Breaker and Reed have a bit of a stare down, but it's revealed that Reed is going to be part of their group. Punk tries to get in and is crushed again, and he is set up for a tsunami splash and hit. And then the heels pose to kind of end the segment. So adding some more beef to the team. So it's going to be Rollins, Braun Breaker, and Bronson Reed going forward. We then get Chelsea Green. She seems to be losing her voice, but knows that the votes are in, and it's time for her to get her women's U.S. title back. She is unsuccessful in that as Zelina Vega defeats her when a distraction from the Secret Service goes awry, and Zelina hits a middle rope code red. We then get Jimmy Hart and Bushwhacker Luke shown in the crowd. Jimmy Hart's hair looked like he had a good bit of shoe polish thrown up in there. It was pretty discolored and kind of gross looking. We then get announced that El Hijo del Vikingo versus Chad Gable will happen at Worlds Collide. We then get John Cena defeating R-Truth via pinfall following a low blow and an attitude adjustment. After the match, Cena grabs his title and smacks R-Truth over the head with it and then leaves. Jey Uso then runs into John Cena backstage, who he eliminated to win the Royal Rumble. Cena loves the idea of leaving with the title while Logan Paul is the World Heavyweight Champion, which kind of leaves Jey thinking. We then get shown Leilani Kai, or Lonnie Kai, and Tatanka in the crowd, showing some more legends. We then get Damian Priest defeating Drew McIntyre in a cage match after he hit him with a concerto, and then Priest walks out of the cage to end the match. Jesse Ventura was on commentary during this match and was pretty terrible and was very pissed for some reason that Priest won the match by walking out of the cage. So definitely interesting there. We'll see how much Jesse's involved in the future because he was pretty poor in this effort. But then they show the U.S. Express of Barry Windham and Mike Rotunda in the crowd. But for our next match, and then we main event with Jey Uso defeating Logan Paul via pinfall following a spear and an Uso splash. John Cena had gotten involved trying to screw Uso, but Cody Rhodes comes out to cut him off, and that eventually allows Jey to hit the moves to be able to win the match. And then to end the show, Cody issues a challenge for a tag team match between Uso and Rhodes versus Paul and Cena for Money in the Bank, and that kind of ends the show. I would say the steel cage match was the best match on the show. Not probably the worst of the Saturday night's main events that they've had so far. I had some faith that they could put together a good show on this one, but I think they continue to book too many matches. I think they kind of railroad themselves because I think they get to a certain point where I don't think that they understand that they're going to run out of time towards the end because I feel like the last match is kind of rushed. And I think they kind of took their time maybe early and didn't realize how close up against the clock they were going to get. So, not the best effort on this Saturday night's main event, but hopefully they'll be better in the future, but not their best effort here for sure. I'm not going to do pay-per-view match rankings because I didn't particularly think either of the shows were all that great. I'm not going to waste time on that. So I'll just do my TV match rankings for the week. I actually went with that NXT triple threat as my number one match. Shawn Legacy, Javon Evans, and Ashante the Adonis. I thought it was really well worked, really put over a new guy that I wasn't at all expecting to win the match. I figured Evans would win this one, going away pretty easily. So, but Legacy impressed me and did come away with the win. So, um, but number two for me would be that 6-man from Dynamite, Joe Hobbs and Swerve defeating the Bucks and Moxley. As far as number three, I would go with Roxy versus Natty versus Becky. Number four, I would go with Penta and AJ versus the Judgment Day. And then number five would be the triple threat from SmackDown with Julia, Charlotte, and Zelina Vega. So that would wrap up my top five for the week. Solid week of wrestling. Next week, I'll talk about Double or Nothing and Battleground that are both happening tonight. But obviously, with a little bit of time crunch, I'm not going to be able to watch those and record about them for this week's episode. So those will come next week. But as always, thanks everybody for joining me, and we'll see you then to cover those two shows, plus everything that happens on TV. So we'll see you next week.